Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Earthlings on planet Earth, wherever you may be. It is Saturday morning here in Spain. Today, I'm going to play Time Machine. I want to take you all back to a time before Meghan and Harry had even met, I think. But before I do, just a couple of quick updates. I've read all your comments, more coming in on the last video. Fascinating. I didn't know about the GQ, GH awards, whatever they're called, men's awards. Meghan didn't go apparently in the end, and that was a couple of days ago. Thank you very much, those of you who've pointed that out. Very sorry to hear that Sue Smith is having issues. She has my sympathies. I'm here for her if there's anything I can do. Update on the copyright claim that was put in against me by the troll, John Smith. It's been under final review. I would have assumed that the 10 working business days finished yesterday. Maybe it's not till Monday, or maybe it will remain under final review for all eternity. Who knows, with the ghosts at YouTube. Letters to the Palace. I will do a video once I've written the letter. I really want to think out how to word the letter. It will be an open letter. I will read it out to all of you, and I will put the addresses for Kensington Palace, Clarence House and Buckingham Palace, just in case, for those who would like that. Right, now when I was on the run and we were living in Portugal, we had a pretty old-fashioned TV, one of those that takes a VHS cassette recorder in the bottom. So it wasn't one of those TVs where we could set original language. So the only channel I could watch in English was CNN. Drove me balmy, actually, quite frankly. But it was the only one I could watch. And in the mornings, I used to watch Larry King. He was the most entertaining slot. Apart from a guy called Richard Quill or something, who used to do the finances, he was really funny. So the late, great Larry King, what a question, interviewed Meghan Markle pre-Prince Harry. Now, the reason this has come back to my mind, because I watched this, as soon as I heard Meghan Markle, who the hell is Meghan Markle? I'd watched that video, and I was quite shocked at something that she said during that interview. Then I largely forgot about it, and it wasn't until some of you lovely people commented in the video last night that you believe maybe she has backing from an enemy state to destroy the monarchy, create division in the Western world, blah, 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 blah. Which, I'm not going along with those theories. For legal reasons, I couldn't possibly say that. However, the Larry King interview came back to my mind. And I will put a link in the description of this video. So, if you don't feel you'll have to wash your eyes out with bleach and puke having to listen to this, I have watched it again this morning and I have made notes and I am reviewing that. Right. Firstly, she was the last person on earth that the great Larry King wanted to interview. It's written all over his face. I would love Jesus Enrique Rosas to do a body language of this particular interview. I think that would be enlightening. Larry has this kind of look on his face. And he does this a lot, like, who the hell are you? How long is this going to go on for? This is purgatory. He actually almost falls asleep twice during the interview. And it's not that long an interview, it's about 12 minutes. So he starts off by saying, I'm interviewing Meghan Markle today. And he has that kind of tone of voice. I love Larry. He starts off by saying, what's the tig? And she goes into one, it was my aha moment, word salad, blah, 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 blah. Then he says, okay, what's UN Women? Like, Larry King, a seasoned journalist, he hasn't got a clue what UN Women is. I don't know what UN Women is. I assumed it was a big thing that someone like Larry would have known until I rewatched it and really paid attention to what he's saying. So he says, so what is UN Women? At this point, Meghan's really quite angry with him. Her jaw is clenching and she's like, yes, well, UN Women. She's really mad at this guy. He's not taking her seriously. She can see it. She goes on about female empowerment, blah, 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 blah. Lots of word salad. Again, I nodded off a bit like Larry. Then Larry says, I think this is the best line in all of it. He says, what does that entail? What do you actually do? Oh, she's really, really angry with him by now. She then goes on to say, oh, I went to Rwanda, blah, blah, blah. 68% of the people in power are women. It's a fine example, Rwanda. To which Larry, kind of astonished, says, really? So how come so much shit's gone down there? How do you square that? I don't think those were his exact words, but you go watch it for yourself. And to which... And he's smirking. He actually looks dead into the camera and smirks and goes, so women are in charge and there's been a load of shit. There's actually quite a shocking thing. I mean, Meghan's really angry by now. She's really angry. You can see little muscles going on her face. She comes out with one of the most astonishing statements, which I hadn't actually noticed before. That's not the shocking part I was thinking of. She says, well, a lot of the men were killed in the genocide, which gave the women that wonderful opportunity to rule. So she appears to be celebrating, I'm sure she wasn't, but it came across in a really bad way, that it was a good thing that all the men were killed in genocide to make a vacancy for the women. What? Larry's face at this point is like, what the hell's going on here? And she calls it, and this is a direct quote, which was a great benchmark. You can actually go and check this for yourself. Larry is seriously looking pissed off at this point, and you can see it's written all over his face. Who is this moron? This is my opinion, by the way. It's just my take. This is my review. Free speech, fair use and fair dealing. Then Meghan goes into like a really weird word salad, and I did have to switch off mentally because her tone of voice is so puke-worthy. It's similar to when she did the elephant thing. You know, look at Lala and Farla, they're having a pool party in the mud. She goes into this kind of thing. Larry now is like thinking, oh my God, I want to kill myself. And then she stops talking, and Larry's like, it's stopped. And he's kind of lost the thread. He didn't know what they were talking about in the first place because nothing she was saying was making any sense or bore any relation to any question he'd asked her. So he's like, oh, yeah, where do you think is the worst place in the world for human rights? I mean, he says, Saudi Arabia would come to my mind. Now, this is the part I always found shocking. Meghan disagrees. She's toned right down, and she even goes on to defend them and says, well, I don't think it's fair. There's something like this. This is not direct quote. I don't think it's fair to criticise them. I mean, they have religion and they have culture, and we should respect that, and we should leave them to do that. This is coming from a woman who has done nothing but trash our British culture, our 1,000-year-old monarchy. She said, go and watch this. She defends Saudi Arabia's right and excuses any human rights that take place because they have religion and cultures that must be respected. She then concedes, because Larry at this point, again, he's woken up and he's like, again, who is this moron? And so she very dumbed down says, and this is a direct quote, Saudi Arabia, I guess would be a strong one to mention. To mention? So that brought me back to some of you guys saying, is she funded by an enemy state? I'm not suggesting that Saudi Arabia is an enemy state, but it's a wealthy place. Just from a point, just throwing a question out there, or continuing the discussion, because some of you have commented it, and I have heard people mention this before. Then Larry kind of switches off again, and Meghan's like, blah, 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 blah. Then she starts going on about other cultures, anywhere else but Saudi Arabia. We need change. These ancient institutions, they need shaking up and change. Apart from Saudi Arabia, presumably. Larry, again, has nodded off. And then she stops talking, so he's like, oh, is this ended? Or, oh, no, camera's still rolling. Academy Awards. What do you think of Academy Awards? Do you think women get equality in that, for example? He's really pissed off and bored by this point. Meghan, blah, 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 blah. Then she randomly mentions Jennifer Lawrence's name. Jennifer Lawrence did some stupid thing. I don't know, they put a picture of Jennifer up. Then she mentions one of the Arquette sisters. Not in any particular context, they put a picture of the Arquette, I can't remember which Arquette sister it was. And then Larry's just lost the plot by now. He's looking for his cyanide pill. And he says, so what's the TIG again? He's forgotten. Meghan goes on and on and on about that. Then Larry says, yeah, this is really weird. I think he's just not sure what's going on. He says, has it ever affected you? He doesn't elaborate what. He just says, has it ever affected you? She completely goes along with this and doesn't say, has what affected me? She's, you know, so maybe they edited something out that they both knew what they were talking about, to which Meghan launches into her, when I was 11 years old, I changed the world with a dishwasher commercial. She says she wrote to Hillary, who was the First Lady at the time. I think I've heard people say, no, Hillary wasn't the First Lady at that particular moment. At this moment, after she's done her dishwasher commercial, Larry's face is a picture. And I wish I could still it and put it up here, but I'm not risking another copyright strike because I've never had a copy. This is the only copyright strike I've got, is this moronic troll. And then he sort of says, how's Suits? He just wants to get her off it. And she goes on and she's made up another word, and I think this is a made up word, unless I've never heard of it before. She says, commonality. I have a lot of commonality with my character. Larry, do you want to do anything else? Meghan, blah, 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 blah. Salad. Larry asks her about her looks. I think he just can't think of anything else. This is the guy who'd say, what a question. You got to know the question to ask the guest. Larry actually mentions Gloria Steinem. And Meghan I'm not sure she knew who Gloria Steinem was at that point. That's my opinion. The look on her face was like, Gloria who? But that's where Gloria Steinem's name first came up. And then Larry ends it up again by saying, so how can we find out more about this UN Women? So she says, oh, it's unwomen.com or whatever, or .org. And he says, okay, and then she tells him the URL of the TIG again. He goes, okay, so UN Women and the TIG. And his face at the end, the guy couldn't give less of a crap. He's just glad it's over. That's my opinion. That's my body language expertise on the whole thing. So go and watch it if you dare. Let me know what you think. But from the point of view of a woman who's done nothing but complain about women's rights and how everything needs to change, don't you equally find it interesting her reluctance to criticise Saudi Arabia? Not only that, she positively defends Saudi Arabia's traditions and cultures. Now, I am not for a moment criticising Saudi Arabia's culture. I'm not getting into that. But isn't it interesting that she defends their right to a culture, and yet us Brits can go swing? We need it all shaking up. Or is that just because she married into our monarchy and not theirs? I dread to think what would have happened to her if she had married into their monarchy. Food for thought. Look forward to seeing you in the comments with your fabulous opinions.